And welcome back to the Accelerator. I'm Michael Conniff, your host. This is a podcast devoted to entrepreneurs, founders, startups, and the money that they want to find amongst VCs, angels, investors of all kind. We are very lucky today to be joined by Soerinder Dataram, who is the CEO of WAUTEC, based in Eindhoven, the Netherlands, and Maria McKenzie. She is the U.S. business development lead here in the United States for this video compression technology. First of all, welcome to all of you. Thanks for being on the Accelerator.
Thank you very much, Michael. It's an honor to be in this meeting, actually, and in this podcast.
Well, I'm excited to have you. This program is new, but what I want to say is, number one, we do not recommend stocks. We do not recommend investments. We do not recommend anything other than using your own brain to figure out whether you're interested in a company. That's really important. But what we have at the Accelerator is something called the watch list, which is companies that we are really interested in, companies that inherently we like, many things about them. And so WAUTEC is on this list because of its video compression technology. And I have to tell I only have one Eindhoven story, which is I was supposed to go. I never went. Now, here's the thing. Can you guess what technology I was going to Eindhoven for?
Well,
so I'll give you, it would have been 1981. 1981. Yes.
Well, I'm guessing you probably would have been with a company with Philips calling it.
Good. Correct. So far, so good.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the technology?
It's, they are the leading company in the world when it comes to making microprocessor machines all around the world.
You're getting warmer. You're getting warmer.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to put you out of your misery because there's no way you're going to get this right because nobody remembers this. But after the success of CD audio, compact disc audio, and the relative success of CD-ROM, read-only memory, there was a thing called CDI, which was called.
That.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
It's called Compact Disc Interactive.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be, the interactive world that we now have on the web, but brought to the CD player, backwardly compatible with CD devices, or forward compatible, I guess. And it was a big bomb.
Oh, wow.
And the lesson of that one was, just in a nutshell, was CD audio had been such a big success, the conversion from analog to digital, right? One of the first big ones. And the same guys who had successfully turned CD, who had done that transition and took credit for the success of CD audio, the same guys from Philips were in charge of CDI. Now, CDI was completely different. True. But they were so confident. Oh yeah, we're just going to kind of waltz in with this, and CDI was a terrible technology. It was slow, right? You remember?
I know. It never left the ground. It stayed on the ground.
Never left the ground. However, you were talking to the former managing editor of CDI News, paid for by Philips. So you were also talking maybe to one of the few people on the planet who ever made money from CDI. So it was.
That's true because everyone lost money on that.
It was
especially Philips.
Especially Philips. So I never got to Eindhoven. So that's still ahead of me. So I'm very excited by your technology, Soerinder. I wanted to start with you. You have been working on this for a while. Well, why don't you describe what you have and the process that got you here so far?
Okay. Well, let me start by explaining what we have, actually. What we have is actually very easy to explain. We have a new video compression solution that will take your 100% original video file and will compress it up to 99.7% without losing any quality. Okay, and we can go up to 8K quality videos. That's it. That's the whole technology.
Okay, and what kind of improvement is that on other competitors in the marketplace?
Well, we've seen actually codec companies coming in the market, and MPEG LA is one of the biggest one in the world with multiple patents and making money as crazy. And you have some newcomers. Google is one with their VP8, VP9. And there's this open source collection with Hewlett Packard, Facebook, Google, trying to create a solution for the market, because they find the fees that they have to pay for using the codecs too high, which it really is. But they don't have any other solution or any other options. So they're trying to create an open source variation for everyone. And then you have the Chinese companies. Huawei is one of the biggest ones. Tencent is creating their own codecs. You have some Russian companies creating codecs. So video compression is a very crowded space these times. Even Intel, Qualcomm, all these companies are in this space operating as we speak.
And to what degree is maybe you should explain? Not everybody knows what a codec is, so tell us what a codec is.
Codec is actually, it's a short name of algorithms to compress video files. That's a codec. So, and there are multiple ways and multiple codecs which will give you multiple compression ratios. The compression ratio is actually, from the original to the file size that you get after compression. That's called the compression ratio. Mm-hmm. Another thing that a codec also can do, not all codecs, but some codecs do, that can change your format. If you have an MPEG, MP4 file, you can change the format into another format, which will play probably smoother or better, or perhaps for another reason why you want to do that. So that's called encoding and transcoding. So that's actually what a codec does. Okay.
Now, I am your company is a video compression software company, correct?
True.
So, am I wrong? And I associate codecs with including hardware. Am I right about that?
Well, in the beginning you had hardware with codecs in it, like a black box, and now you have in cloud versions.
Okay,
and
so software
these days you
only
also
versions.
have codecs. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
True.
Okay.
So
good.
you have both versions.
So who of those competitors you named, of course, I'm particularly interested in. Keep going. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So actually, one of the things I wanted to also explain, there are companies who have created codecs especially for themselves. They don't share, they don't sell the technology that they have. Netflix is one of them, YouTube is one of them, and they keep their technology only for their sole purpose for their own company. That's it.
And so is it a crowded space?
It is a crowded space, and the good thing is, actually the good thing for us is, they're trying to do the same thing, all of them actually, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to increase the compression ratio by using the same technology as 20 years ago, okay? And what they started doing 20 years ago is they were looking at the predictability of the next frame. If the next frame is almost the same as the frame that you're looking at, then they would be able to slice a bigger piece of it off than if it was a completely different type of frame. Mm-hmm. So the predictability of the next frame is still leading perception of codecs and compression technology till today.
Now, what does yours do that's different?
Well, that's exactly what we're not doing. We're not looking at the predictability, because that would mean we would be going the same road as all the other companies. And we would get the same results as all the other companies. And I'm glad we never got on that path. Absolutely not.
And so what is your path and what's different about it?
Well, one of the things that we do is our software looks at the frames, the pixels, and the dynamics of every different frame when it moves on from the first frame to the second frame.
And I want to frame this conversation. you're talking video is essentially 24 frames per second or 30 frames per second.
Yeah,
So when you're
basically.
talking about the competitors, they're looking at the preceding frame and they're making predictions on subsequent frames.
Yes.
Now, instead of that, you are looking at pixels and what are the other things?
We're looking at and the dynamics in the frames itself.
Okay.
So that gives us much more information how much we can compress per frame. It takes a little bit more time and it requires a little bit more power,
Mm-hmm.
but the results is astonishing.
And so this process has implications. Your software has implications basically for anyone streaming video. Is that fair?
Well, it's not only if you're streaming video, even if you're storing video for any reason, whether it's for court or for security or just for your own premises, everything that has to do with static video, our solution applies 100%. And
So
streaming,
storage streaming, of course, we're streaming over essentially the web or a network.
true, yeah,
Storage where that might include the cloud, right?
true, yeah,
Something in the cloud, something
yes.
local, though there's not as much of that almost as there used to be. That used to be the whole ball game. So Maria, let me ask you. You are in charge of U.S. business development. What does that technology mean in terms of who you're targeting in the U.S.?
Correct. So basically, some of the streaming companies that could benefit from maybe the compressed data, the price that it takes, that they spend on storing this data could be compressed, and so they would benefit for such. I've worked with in the past with the companies like even aviation. When they stream, they there's only so much that they can put on each aircraft. So for instance, if you're able to compact the data, then so there's a couple of companies. A lot of the companies that I'm kind of targeting are streaming, companies that use up a lot of data that they need to compress and could benefit from.
Yeah, and so would you be looking to license to them directly? Do they buy the technology, or how would they implement it?
Well, Soerinder has probably a better answer for that. It just, we would either license it. I'm based out of the U.S., so they're in the Netherlands.
Yeah. Well, if I might add on that, Michael,
Yeah.
We have actually two perceptions when it comes to offering this technology in the market. We have the non-commercial market, and we want to offer them a fixed price per compressed gigabyte because that's going to be only on storage. And for the commercial,
excuse me for interrupting, but non-commercial would be academic, would be nonprofit. What would be non-commercial?
That would be actually nonprofit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in a broad range, so nonprofit, and the profit sector would be very easy for streaming companies. They already have per subscriber. They have a fixed cost for fees they have to pay for codecs, fees they have to pay for CDN companies for transport. And what we're doing by compressing their content, they will use less data to transport and less space to store it. So we're asking a fraction of that cost per subscriber per month. That's it. And for that, we'll compress all your video content
On a per subscriber per month basis.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, and then just help me visualize how you implement that, because I'm still it's kind of a hard thing to visualize.
Okay.
So I just made a deal. Somebody just makes a deal with WAUTEC for the compression technology. Let's say it's STARS network in the U.S. What happens?
Well, what happens is we'll offer them two possibilities. Either we compress their content and they stream it or broadcast it, or they can use their own equipment to compress the video files and broadcast and stream if they want to. For to use our technology, you do require a Mac machine. It doesn't run on Microsoft's or anything else. It runs only on Mac machines. So that is
Okay.
important to keep in mind. So, and some companies, they don't have a problem to acquire some Mac machines to
Mhm.
do the compression on their own. And some will say, you know what, you do the compression, just deliver the content with according these specifications. And that's it. So we can offer them both solutions. And one of the important things for content companies is that the privacy and the security of their content. So in most cases, they will choose to do the compression by themselves because that way they know the content doesn't leave their premises. And that's the most secure way, to make sure that it doesn't get um, pirated,
Stolen.
actually, yes,
Yeah,
stolen or
pirated. Yeah.
pirated along the way, either with them or getting to us or with us. So in most cases, they will choose to do it by themselves on their own premises, which is also the case with law enforcement.
Okay. So, and that's another market, obviously, with the proliferation of video in law enforcement, which is also something we worry about here in terms of George Orwell in 1984. But uh, you said Macintosh machines are necessary, but a Mac is not a supercomputer. Obviously, a
No.
Mac is a limited device. Are we talking about networking multiple Macs to support like a stars? There's massive streams going out. Tens of thousands of streams. So do you daisy chain the Macs together? How do you do that?
Well, actually, first of all, it depends on how much content you want to compress at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
That will be determined actually how much Mac machines you will need. And once, let's say, you start with 10 Mac machines, and the content only needs to be compressed just once. That's it. So once you start compressing bulk, and you'll get to the content that you'll get probably on weekly or daily basis, and you'll be able to do that with 2-3 Macs on a daily basis. So you can start with 10 or 20, and after that you'll downscale back to like 2, 3, or 4. And that's it. So once the video is compressed, you're good to go. You
Okay,
don't have to do it twice or
sure. Once
repetitions.
you compress it, you're compressed. End of
That's it.
story.
Yeah, end of
Uh,
story.
This is the Accelerator. I'm Michael Conniff with Maria McKenzie and Soerinder Dataram of WAUTEC. Maria is in Florida, and Soerinder is in the Netherlands. And they are their company is on my the accelerator. I shouldn't say the accelerator's watch list because we like what we hear so far. This is not a recommendation to buy or invest or do anything other than find out more. That's important to note. And that's called a disclaimer. So keep that in mind. But let me ask you. I want to drill down on the competitors a little bit. If you're saying you have the highest level of compression at the highest quality,
Yes.
so who would be number 2 and number 3?
I think number 2 would be Huawei from China,
Okay.
and number 3 would be Tencent, also from China,
Okay.
because we did a comparison last year for almost 6 months with all the major players, and directly behind us you had Huawei and you had Tencent with the highest compression ratios, and after that you would get MPEG with MP4s and VP9, and after that you'll get the AV1, the MOVs, MTV. So it's a long list with a lot of different formats.
Mm-hmm.
But at the immediately after us, you'll get 2 Chinese companies who are doing extremely good in terms of progress.
In terms of the market.
Yeah.
I have to share this story with our listeners. It's one I think I may have already shared with you, but I had a company called Interactive Sports in the 90s. So we're talking maybe 95. And we had a big deal with Sprint, which at the moment had the only fiber optic, you can hear a pin drop network, as they said. So, top of the line technology. And we did an experiment between the New England Patriots in Foxborough, Mass, and the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle, Washington. And we sent, I think, I can't do the same trick on you I did before, but we sent 30 seconds of full motion video across the country for the first time, apparently. Certainly the first time in the NFL. So I think I told you this because my quiz question is, guess how long it took for that 30-second video to go across the country once? And the answer is we went to lunch. We went to lunch. It took so long that when we came back 3 hours later, the 30 seconds had been transmitted. So that was 95. So we've, thanks to people like you, we've come a really long way. Wow. So let me ask you, I want to ask you both a little bit about your background and how we got here. Maria, how did you find out about this and how did you get involved? And what led up to this for you in your career?
Well, ironically enough, I started off as a surgical dental assistant.
Uh-huh. Great training for technology, dentistry. Lots of pain. No pain, no gain.
No. So, we had a studio where we would do oral surgeries, and various universities, would request things. So as our programmer, at first, the students would call in and ask questions, and he was able to program how they could text in questions. And then as he did that, he kept compressing the data and compressed the hell out of data that let's put it this way. At one time, I met with the CEO of MTV, and he at the time, he had says we were about 9 months ahead of anything he's seen. And this is our programmer. And so anyways, I realized that we had something that was very, because this is going back 15 years ago. Did I lose Michael?
Yeah.
And so
no, that's just the sound of me listening.
Oh, okay. All right. Perfect. Yeah. So anyhow,
that's an old radio trick. You just listen.
Yeah. No. So anyways, I searched out a couple of different companies and got about 36 NDAs where we showed this technology and it was most impressive, So I started off in dentistry and then moved on to business development through those stepping stones. That's how I met a lot of people in tech.
Yeah. And how did you meet Soerinder?
Through Gunther.
And Gunther's actually, my partner in this.
What is Gunther's full name?
Gunther Schubert.
And he's your partner?
He is my partner. He lives in Germany. He is from Germany. And actually, Maria met him before I did when he was living in the U.S.
Yes. 15 years ago, when I remember Gunther would program and do all these things, and I'd show my friends on my cell phone, look, this is a stream, and streaming wasn't something that people really knew about back then. So I also remember there was a test that he did in Canada with a stadium where we sent the signal from Naples there, and then they did their signal within their stadium, and we beat them from, like you were saying, sending the signal from, our base at that time, which was in Naples.
So you come by the compression business honestly, from a dental chair. That's actually a great story. That's a great way to get involved. Yeah.
Do you know how many times I got asked? I was, I think I was at Sony once, and one of the gentlemen was like, "How did you get in front of us?" There's about 12 different VPs from different departments and such. And I said, "I simply just asked for your time." Yeah. And I said, "I sent you some information," and I was there 2 weeks later. So Gunther, just what he's been doing in the last 15 years or more, well, actually his whole life, but it's pretty amazing.
And he is the CTO, is that right? Is he he's a co-founder?
Yes, he's co-founder and CTO. And the good thing is, he started in 2003 for the very first time with compressing video. So that's a long, long time.
Almost 20 years ago, 19 years.
Almost 20 years ago. So, and he kept developing.
Listen, you tell Gunther I was compressing video in the mid-90s, so tell him to put that in his pipe and smoke it, as we say. And you know what? It didn't work very well.
Okay.
That's the real story of that. but so he's been in it a long time, and did he always have this different approach than
Well,
the
actually,
competition?
he did. He did. I spent a lot of time with Gunther, and I'll
Hello.
also often walked with him in the forest in Germany when I go to his place. And he told me a lot of things before he went to the US. He started actually the very first Microsoft dealer in East Germany. It's a very, very long time. The very first official Microsoft dealer in East Germany.
Wow.
That was a huge step back
Oh,
then.
East Germany. You say East Germany. You mean when it was, but the
Yeah.
wall. It was after the wall had fallen, right?
No,
So
before the wall had fallen.
before the wall had fallen.
Yes.
That's
So
pretty amazing. So it was
that's
It was communist.
yeah. Back then it was
Communist
communist.
bloc.
So
Yeah, it was the
and
Iron Curtain, behind the Iron Curtain.
true. And the good
Amazing.
thing is, Gunther is a little bit older than I am. But the things back then, that he learned as a programmer, as a software programmer, I never knew that there were so many languages that you could program in, but he can do more than 50 different languages to program software.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
So he's
So
a bit of a genius. Yeah.
yeah,
he is.
and the great thing about him is he's so modest, so kind, and he'll always take the time to explain anything you want to know.
Uh huh.
Oh yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's one thing. I've had many hours of phone calls with him, but everything I learned, he just explained it in such a way that somebody who is non-technical could get in front of, a group of people and just kind of at least explain. And then of course they would take it over because the real technical stuff are these guys,
Yeah. Of course.
kind of more
Yes.
business development. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's important though to be able to I call it translating, to be able to translate from between the
right.
technical person and then the non-technical. That's a skill in and of itself.
Yeah.
Now, how did you come across and when did you come across Gunther Soerinder?
Actually, I came across Gunther in 2014. I was back then in the business of content distribution. So we were buying content in multiple parts of the world, Hollywood, in India, in China, in Malaysia. So we were buying different types of content and we would redistribute them around the globe.
Was it
So,
video content or was
yeah,
it
no,
all
it was only video
video content?
content. Yeah.
Okay, so
So,
movies, television
yes,
shows, news,
yes.
or what have
And
you.
sports content, which was really,
Sports.
really popular.
Yeah.
So, and we came at the point that there were companies who were asking 4K content. And we had some content producers that gave us 4K content, but no one was able to stream that. It was too big. You
In
needed
other words,
so much bandwidth.
the video files were too large.
Yeah,
Nobody could pump it out.
no, because you required
Yeah,
too much bandwidth to stream it.
sure.
And that was extremely, extremely pricing. So, and I started looking for companies or people who were doing anything. So
Hmm.
one of my contacts in Hong Kong back then said, "Listen, I know a guy in US, and you need to call him, and you send him an email, and he will be able to." I said, "You know what he does?" He says, "Soerinder, you will be amazed how much compression he can get you on your 4K video files." So that's how actually I came in contact with Gunther.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
Gunther did some examples. Man, we were blown away here. We were
Yeah.
completely blown away. We've
Now,
never seen anything like that.
let's talk about WOWTEC today, the state of the company. How many employees do you have? Where are they?
Well,
And then we'll get into like how you might expand.
okay. Well, right now last week we came to 14. Of course, based in Netherlands, Germany, India, Dubai, South Africa, Belgium, now also in US and also in Costa Rica.
Are you sure you're not the United Nations?
No, I'm sure. I'm pretty sure not there yet. No, I'm pretty sure
So
not
wait a
there yet.
minute. Every single person is in a different country. Is that?
No, actually, we have in
Right?
India we have a small development team. In Dubai we have a team for the UAE region. And South Africa we have office actually for South Africa, Nigeria, Congo, that part. And we also have two people in Morocco, which is not formally yet connected to us, but they are looking into Morocco, Algeria, that region.
Yep.
And from Netherlands and in Germany, we're looking to also from Belgium, going to France, Italy, Spain, who are doing more and more into streaming and also law enforcement.
And what are your revenues like? And so in 2021, I should ask it this way: how many years have you been in business, and what is your revenue growth?
Actually, Gunther and we started the company in 2016 formally, and we've done a lot of demonstration. And back then, it was only an in-cloud version, which would make it, it made it very hard to get in clients, because most of the clients, they were very hesitant because of the security issue, doing things in the cloud. And also the amount of time it took, to upload one 4K movie in the cloud. It takes a day or two if the bandwidth is not big enough. So we had a lot of issues. And one of the biggest issues we had with the law enforcement here, they said, Soerinder, the technology is fantastic, but by law, we cannot give any citizens access to this footage. So I said, okay. So, and we also did a closed demonstration for the military services in Netherlands on their invitation. But we ran into the same walls. It's an in-cloud solution, and their footage is not allowed by law to go outside the premises. So we kept hitting the same wall. So we said, you know what, we're not going to the market. We're going to have to make more developments, because otherwise we're going to keep hitting the same walls even after 2-3 years. So we went back to to our programming tables, and we started to go to the version that we could do. We could sell licenses. We could install the software on other machines, and not being only an in-cloud version. So last year, I went to India to demonstrations with one of the biggest tech companies there, which is LNT. And, they fell immediately in love with the technology, and they wanted to roll out the technology in whole India. And when I came back in March with a contract, literally 4 days after that, the whole world went on a lockdown. So everything changed after that for us in terms of revenue, going to the market, and market share. Everything changed for that after
But
that.
that must have been incredibly frustrating.
It was, because we thought it will take like probably 2-3 months, and after that it will be business as usual. And by now, end of 2021, we know that's not the case, and probably it will not be probably in 2-3 years. So
business as usual means something different than it did then.
Absolutely, absolutely. So
unfortunately,
yeah. So then we had to go back again to do more development to make sure that we could install our software remotely on machines. So the situation forced us to do more development. So we went on, spend more time, more money to do the development that we could remotely install the software on your machine. So we don't have to travel anymore to implement the software on your machine. We can do it remotely. And by now, we will send you a link. You download the software on your machine on your own, and everything is done automatically. So, a lot of good things came out of the situation. Is we made much more progress in terms of development and user friendliness, which is a really important thing. Because the more user friendly your software is, the less time and money you will have to spend on surface level agreements and support and all those things.
Yeah, no, it may have been a blessing in disguise.
It definitely is. Right now, we do see it as a blessing, but back then, we were absolutely
Yeah.
frustrated that we could not go to the market because we had large companies waiting for our technology to take it to the market. And instead of earning money, we were spending much more money. So
Yeah.
yeah. So right now we're at the point of going back to the market, and we are looking at really, really good developments in China and with some Chinese telecom companies, Indian telecom companies, and Bollywood streaming companies. So, and the good thing, Maria is also doing a fantastic job in US, in past few weeks that we've been talking and working. She came up with companies. I did fantastic, absolutely mind blowing.
That's great.
Working
Maria?
with Gunther and Soerinder, they're just two wonderful people, and I'm so excited to be on part of the team.
What is the response in the U.S., Maria, when you broach the technology to people?
Can't believe it. And they're like, what?
Okay, so how do you prove it? What do you do to prove it?
Well, through Surrender, they do videos. You send a video to us, compress it, and then send it back to you for analysis and such,
Yeah,
and you let us know what you think.
that's
It's pretty simple, especially since now they can do things remotely, which Gunther they worked on so hard.
yeah. And the
Yeah,
good thing is, seeing is believing, Michael. Every
yeah,
time, the seeing is believing. I spent hours and hours talking to multiple companies, and the only thing I had to do is actually to show them an
Right,
example, whether it was an example of ours or an example of their own video. It really didn't matter. Absolutely. You know, um, and one of the best stories I would like to share right now, I can. So, that's a good thing. Intel came on our path in 2017 through one of my friends in California, David. And, they sent us a video file of their own, 10.2 gigabyte, 4K quality. Okay.
mm,
With a lot of fast moving frames, which is extremely hard to compress if you're using, you know, everyone else's codecs. So, and they said, just show us what you can, literally just like that. So we made them 10 different versions, and, they sent us a USB stick, and we sent the 10 different versions of compression by WeTransfer below the 2 gigabyte. So that
mm,
was already a surprise for them.
mm-hmm.
And literally an hour after sending those video files, they sent us, they called us and said, can we get on a call? I said, okay, so Gunther also came on a call. And the only thing actually they spent a whole year asking us is, how did you guys manage to get this compression ratio? And at some point I said, guys, listen, obviously we cannot share this information with you. As simple as that. But besides that, any questions after that, you're welcome to ask them. So the SDK that they placed on their chips, microchip today, we were the very first ones to test that out for them and compare it with our solution.
Mm.
I think it was good for them to see the differences. It was not good for us because they came to a compression ratio with 35-40%. And after that, you had a lot of quality loss.
And you're at 97%.
Yeah, 99.7%.
99.7. Okay.
Yes. So, and they asked whether we could combine their SDK with ours. And back then I was not really diplomatic. I said, it really doesn't make sense to me that why should we integrate our solution with your SDK coming to 40% and we're coming to 99.7%. I really don't see any benefit in that. But I guess from a commercial perspective, I should have been probably more diplomatic. So at some point, they said how we would like to feel to integrate our solution on their microchips. I said, it would be great. But then they wanted also to put their SDK on top of that. And again, we went into the same discussion at some point after the year of exclusiveness they had. I said, guys, thank you very much for this extremely, extremely important lesson I had. But I don't think we're going to be able to meet eye to eye when it comes to make a deal with this, with our technology and what you guys are looking at.
You'd end up with something less.
Yeah.
What about revenues? Where are you now, and what do you expect?
Right now, we're not making revenues. We're still spending money to go to the market.
Okay.
And right now, we are actually, to give you an idea, in India, we are looking at demonstrations, remotely installed software on their locations, running tests. The same in Dubai. And we're going to start in China in the new year in January, because they required a few more a lot of more security from our side on the IP perspective, because they wanted to make sure that no one can blame or claim for false IP useness for them. So we went to one of the biggest legal companies in the world, who is specialized in this, and they did an audit, a fully audit, and they said, okay, 100% sure that Gunther is the one that created the technology, and Threshold is actually, WAUTEC owns the IP of this technology. So it took a little bit more time to go to the Chinese market, because they wanted to have more certainties, but now we're ready. And in the new year, we'll be starting with demonstrations across the country in China with a really, really strong partner. So that's fantastic.
That's it. That's great. So what are the challenges of managing a company that is in the small, but is in so many places? You're in the Netherlands, Gunther's in Germany, Maria's in Florida, and you mentioned Dubai, Costa Rica. You probably mentioned some companies or countries I've never even heard of. So how do you manage all that?
Well, sometimes, Michael, it means getting up at 4:00 in the morning for the Indian team and for the Chinese team, and going to bed at 12:00 in the night for our US based partners and leads.
Yes, I do forget that there's a time difference. Sorry.
Yeah, that's actually the only way that we can manage this.
Yeah.
But
thank goodness for time zones; they work for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. No,
that's kind of when I was a dental assistant. That's kind of I'd wake up at 5:30 in the morning and go through emails, and then go do my surgical procedure, and during lunch, return phone calls, and after 5 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night, call Australia, and it just time zones worked. And I was younger then too. It's like I could certainly multitask back then, and
so Soerinder, do you know why people become dental assistants?
Well, so they can roll into business development in tech companies.
Exactly. You never know who you meet.
Well,
and you
can't I'll tell you why. They like to talk.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We are chatty patties.
Somebody's got something in their mouth and can't talk back, so that's.
We understand you.
Yeah. In fact, when I have a dentalist, I have a dental assistant now who's from Russia.
Yeah.
Who doesn't talk, and I was just saying to a friend of mine that it's so unusual to have a dental assistant that doesn't talk. Because normally they start chatting away, but it's great. It's great, perfect for business, obviously.
Well, you have to. People come in pretty nervous, and you just got to, learn how to deal with that energy, and
that's true.
And just make it as comfortable as they can. Yeah,
that's true.
Absolutely.
Now, let me ask you. You are starting to look for some additional funding.
Yes.
Who owns the company now?
Actually, right now, Gunther owns 50% of the company, and we own 50%. We meaning me. We own 50-50. That's it.
50-50. Okay.
We don't have any external investors.
Two founders. You bootstrapped it. You did it yourself.
Yes.
Which is great. Now, what are you looking for moving forward?
Well, actually, we're looking forward to meet and talk to investors for two different reasons. First of all, is funding. And a second important thing that also we absolutely appreciate is a very good network, which will help us to get in faster into some some markets, and
Yeah.
start getting revenue. So in terms of network and in terms of funding, that combination would be idyllic for us. Absolutely.
And what is the valuation of the company?
We had a formal valuation last year, actually in January, and the company was valuated for 120 million euros.
120 million euros. A
Yes.
euro is a little more than a dollar.
Yeah, and the good thing is actually back then we did not have the development that we have right now, which is, we can sell licenses. That's one, and we can also do the remote installation.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah,
So it's a different environment.
yeah, we definitely
So-
made more progress.
So based on that valuation, how much are you trying to raise?
We would be absolutely delighted to have a funding for 25 million. And
Euro.
the funding is needed to go to the market, because you have a lot of expenses to make before you can start generating revenues on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
since we have different markets that we are targeting, you need funding and specialists in different markets.
What would that represent? 20 to 25% of the shares?
Yeah, basically.
Something
Almost,
in that range?
yeah, in that range.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And well, I think I've asked everything I wanted to ask. I wanted to MTV came up earlier, and my MTV story is I went to a job interview at MTV before it started.
Oh, wow.
So I met with the senior vice president of sales, and he said, "Well, we're gonna put these music videos on the air. Nobody'd ever seen a music video."
Wow.
And I was like, okay. And he said, he leaned forward and he said, "Let me tell you the best part. The best part is we don't pay for them. The record companies give them to us for nothing. It's the best business." And so in my wisdom at the time, I think I was 30, I said, "You mean lip syncing? You mean they're going to be lip syncing?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Nobody's going to watch that."
Oh, Michael! No, really? You said that?
It's a true story. Yeah. So I didn't want the job, and I did not get it. And the rest is history. MTV is history.
Do you know Mr. Aloisi there?
No, I can't even remember who I talked to, but it was
Yeah.
whoever their first. He was an older guy. He was a lot older than me at the time. Anyway, it just goes. That's my way of proving that I really don't know anything about anything. So, but I would say, putting you on our watch list is not an endorsement. It's not a recommendation to buy or anything like that. But it does mean I think you're doing some really cool stuff.
Thank you.
That we want to stay in touch. We want to keep on top of how you're progressing, and I hope we can do that. And it's absolutely been delightful to talk to you, and I'm hopeful we can do it again. So thank you very much.
Well, Michael, thank you very much, for this opportunity to explain our technology and the company. And I'm looking forward to catch up again, and hopefully I will be able to give you some more good news regarding in terms of revenue, investment, and much more.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
wouldn't be surprised. And thank you, Maria. Appreciate it.
My
And
pleasure.
hopefully
Thank you,
we won't have to do this in the middle of the night. So that's
Well,
encouraging.
we'll have a pajama party. There you go.
Yeah. All right.
Absolutely.
Thanks for being on the accelerator. Appreciate it.
Thank you
Thank
very
you very
much.
much, Michael.